So, hi everybody, today I'm going to talk to you about Ionic I/O. So what is Ionic I/O? Ionic I/O is basically the things missing to get from what was mobile development a few years ago to what is web development. It basically is a bunch of tools that are going to help you to create all the easy stuff you love about web development and get it into hybrid mobile development. So, what was Ionic first? Ionic is today one of the most popular frameworks for developing mobile applications. It has a lot of great stuff, including Cordova. Cordova basically allows you to code your app using HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and it bundles all of that into native applications, that is iOS, Android, and now, more recently, Windows Phone and Windows 10. So it's great because you just have to code one app and you can get it on all your devices. It also includes Ionic CLI, and it's some sort of command line utility which allows you to run your app in a web server in order to develop. It allows you to start to emulate your app and to run it on your device. And it's also very powerful because it's based heavily on AngularJS. So if you know Angular, you know Ionic. And it includes also some kind of an SDK with CSS, just like Bootstrap would be for web development. And also some facilities so you don't have to reinvent the wheel when you're coding mobile applications. I'm talking about tabs, side menus, navigation inside your app. So all of that is great, but I wish it had more stuff, because when you're coding using lean startup methodology, you also need to measure and learn. So this is something that's not allowed if you just use the Ionic framework. It can also take up to 2 weeks for Apple to approve your application, if it ever gets approved. So we have a standard of putting production every week, so that could put it in jeopardy. Also, do I still need a Mac to build an application? It's 2016, so this is also a problem. All of our developers don't have Macs, so we need to find a solution to that. And also I need to understand iOS certificates, which are an absolute mess and are impossible to understand. In order to even test my app on a real device, if I want to put my app on my iPhone, I have to understand everything about Apple certificates, and that's a big issue as well. So, Ionic I/O to the rescue. As you can see, it's a bunch of utilities. It's one hub for building and scaling incredible apps. That's what the website says. So, let's get started. This is going to be a presentation including live coding, so we'll just get started and show you how quickly I can get an Ionic app running using the power of Ionic I/O. So, I just have a couple of commands to run. So I'm just going to write Ionic start, and let's put demo here. And this is going to basically generate an Ionic application. It's not using Yeoman, it's the basic Ionic tools that allow you to generate your app. So it shouldn't take too long, I'm hoping. Okay, so as you can see, what it does is that it bundles an Ionic app, and it shows me the couple of commands I can use out from scratch. So I can just get into this folder. I have to run Ionic I/O init. What this does is that it sends the information about my app to Ionic I/O, which has a dashboard for managing all my apps. So it's very fast. And then Ionic add, Ionic platform web client, and this is going to make the connection between Ionic I/O and the project I just created. So it's that easy, and we'll show you in a couple of seconds how you can get it on your device this way. So, the first utility in Ionic I/O is Ionic View, and the idea is that you can get your app running on a real device in using just one command. So you all remember some entire sprints where you have to, the first sprint where you spend half a day just to get your Hello World page. You can do that faster with Ionic View. It's a simple app running on iOS and Android. And just with one command, I can then manage all of my application, and I can share it to testers or to the client, for instance. So it has a couple of issues. It's not compatible with some Cordova plugins. Cordova plugins allow you to use some native features of your device. It's not really well suited if you want to handle multiple environments, such as a production environment, a staging environment. and it's not ISO to production. So I would recommend using that for launching projects so that you can quickly show features to your product owner. So let's see how it works. I'm just going to run Ionic upload here. This is going to upload my app to the Ionic server, and then I should be able to see it in Ionic View. So demo has just appeared, and I can just view my app. It's going to download the app from the Ionic IO servers, and I have a running app which I can just show to my clients. It took 4 comments to do it, so it's very quick, and I would definitely recommend that so that you can get started on the first sprint. Alright, so then Ionic Package. Ionic Package is a second utility. It allows you to build, even though you have a Linux computer or even Windows, you can build your app for iOS and Android. I'm not going to show it to you because you need to manage certificates to run this. You need to register the certificates because Ionic IO basically builds, you send your web application to the server, it builds the IPA, which is the iOS app, and the APK, which is the Android app, and you can just download it from their server, and it's built, and you don't have to use Xcode or all the SDKs of iOS and Android development. So there are a couple of commands, I'm just showing them to you here. You can just have to run Ionic Package with the platform you want to build on, and it will do the job. You can list previous builds. As you can see, I can list all my previous builds for Android, iOS. If it's a debug environment, if it's a release environment, I can manage all of that. Even if I built it a month ago, I can still download it. It's saved somewhere. I can get information if a build fails, as if I was running it on my own computer. It will give me the stack trace of any failure. And I can download a build just that easy. It will download it on my current directory, and I have the app, and it's ready to be submitted to the App Store, for instance. So this is great. Next up, we have Ionic Deploy. And basically, Ionic Deploy is something I consider should be a standard in projects, which is that users who get an app should not have to download a new version to test the new features, because as developers, we can't force them to download an update, and if they don't download an update, maybe they won't be able to give us some user feedback. So Ionic Deploy allows the app to self-update without any authorization from Apple or whatever. It is actually authorized by Apple, because what is updated is just JavaScript, CSS, HTML, and it's not native code. So it's fine, and Ionic Deploy just downloads new versions. You can tell the user with a notification because they need to restart the app. You can restart the app automatically as well. You have many options. And it's really one of the most amazing aspects of Ionic IO, because it is what's missing from mobile development. When you deploy with the web, you run a command and you know that all your users are going to get your latest version. And this is what was really missing. So how did it work before? You had to build the application. If you didn't have Ionic Package, you would have to have a Mac. You would have to get the Android SDK. You would have to submit the app for each update you would do. You would have to wait for Apple review, possibly 2 weeks of waiting each time you would want to put it in production. And then you would hope that users would eventually update, and maybe they won't. So this was really bad. And with Ionic Deploy, you just have to run one command. It's the same command that with Ionic View. You have the application auto-update if the user just runs your app. And then you can go through the long process if you need to update some Cordova plugins, because those are binary changes that you cannot self-update. So in these cases, you'll have to go through the long process. So I would suggest grouping these changes, these binary changes, so that you have to do this long process just not many times, maybe once a month or something, not more than that. And what is great also is that it can handle as many environments as you need, because I can pass a flag to the upload command, so I can pass the staging flag, I can pass the pre-prod flag and the prod flag, so that all of your apps will self-upload with your GitHub branch, basically, if you manage it well. So this is a great feature. And it just, the dashboard runs like that. You have all of your uploads, and you can also deploy. You see I have the channel here, and I can just see all of my uploads for each environment, basically. My advice is use as many apps and channels as you have environments, because some would recommend to have a single app for all of your environments, but if you want to test your staging app and your prod app, I would suggest having them all on your phone. This is what I did here. I have basically all of my BNP applications for all the environments, and that way I can test all versions. So the code is different because the APIs are different, the environment is different, so to me the apps are different. But this is a debate. Is it safe to use? It's still in alpha, and they don't recommend using it in production, but we've been using it for a couple of months at BNP. Works fine. You can also do rollbacks if this is something that would worry you. You can roll back from the dashboard. And if you publish to the App Store, you need to make sure that you respect semantic versioning, because otherwise people downloading the app from the App Store may get a pop-in of updates. But if you manage your versions well, you won't get any trouble. So you need to be very careful about that. But those are my recommendations. All right, next up, Ionic Analytics and Ionic User. And those are the two tools that are going to allow you to go through the rest of the lean loop, which are to measure and learn when you build your application. So, it's basically a bunch of tools that would look like what you can do with Google Analytics, because Google Analytics doesn't integrate well with hybrid mobile applications. You can use plugins, but it's very complicated. It tracks automatically AngularJS state change, so you can see which pages your users are visiting. It can track events. You have custom HTML markup to mark some elements of your DOM so that you can track some very custom events. You can, with Ionic User, track user information so that you can get some really qualitative feedback. I mean, someone registered, you want to follow what he did on the app, you can do that with Ionic User. And you can define funnels to find weak spots in your app. So this is really great. And okay, so I'm gonna show you how it works very easily. So I'm just going to modify my app to use Ionic Analytics. So all I have to do is to register the module here. So Ionic Service Analytics. Okay. And then I have, I'm gonna just add the Ionic Analytics here, inject it, and to get it running, I just register my app. God damn it. Okay. Okay, I think that did the trick. Let me check. Okay, that's good. So I just upload, as I did before, because I made a modification in my JavaScript code. So Ionic View should upload my app. I can just go back to Ionic View. Okay, and I can, as you can see, I can sync to latest to grab the version I just uploaded. And then I can go to the Ionic dashboard, and I can basically, my app has appeared, and I can just reach the analytics section. As you can see, it says that it doesn't have analytics yet, but it should get some. It usually takes a few minutes for it to run, so maybe we'll check later, because it registers, but it doesn't send events right away. Okay, let's check the rest, and we'll go back to that. And finally, we have Ionic Push, and basically, I haven't had a chance to test it. I love some feedback if people have tested it, because Push are the trickiest part of mobile development, because it also needs certificates to handle these, and the certificates are not handled in the same way in iOS and Android, so it's very complicated to get this set up. It's a very platform-specific feature, and it's also paramount for user engagement. In mobile apps, notifications are a must, because you need people to go to your app not through emails, which would be what we would be doing with web development. You need people to receive a notification and just go straight to the app so that you can engage them in the application. And basically allows you to manage all of your certificates and to handle the platform-specific stuff, which are the servers for Android and iOS, which send push notifications. So you have a bit of code to do server side and a bit of code client side, but it really minimizes the amount of effort you need to engage to get the push notifications running. So let's see if we have analytics. Okay, we do. So basically, as you can see, I have several tabs. This is Pulse. Pulse allows me to see what users do on my app instantly. So as you can see, those are all the state changes I did on my app. I went from the tab chats to the tab dash. So this is something I did, and I can get that real time. I can get retention. Basically, I can say, all right, show me people who did something and then came back to your app maybe a week from now and who did something else. So this is really cool. I've got segments. This allows me to, all right, let's say, I don't know. Let's say I want to segment people who went to, okay, I just made a segment for people who went to a specific state. I can see that 25% of the time I went to the tab account state, 37.5 to the chats, and 37.5 to the dash. So I can just see really easily which views are most popular in my app. Funnels are one of the coolest things. They allow you to basically see where you should make some effort to improve your app. Because I can just create a new funnel and say that the first step would be a stage change to a specific state of my app. And for instance, a use case would be people who registered, how many people who registered are going to use a feature. And maybe your problem is in the registration process, maybe it's in the feature itself. And using funnels is going to allow you to see where your process is wrong and could be improved, because you're going to have some sort of a funnel and you can identify on which part of your app you need to make some effort. So I would say step 1, registering, step 2, using the feature, step 3, logging out, I don't know. But you can see where it's not as fast as it could be. And here you have just events, you have some sort of a summary of all of your events, tapping, stage changes, even custom events. As you can see, I had 8 stage changes on this day. So this is how it works. And as you can see, the dashboard has a lot of other stuff. I'm not going to show you Ionic users, but here you can manage all of your users who registered. You can aggregate their information on this page. This is where you would handle the push notification, which I haven't tried out. This is where you would see your uploads. As you can see, I've uploaded the app 2 times. I can just deploy an older version if I want to roll back. This is something I can do straight from here. I can add some custom environments here. I have 3 by default: development, staging, and production. So the dashboard is really well built. The certificates are going to be handled on the settings. I can add all of my certificates from Apple and Android at the same place. So this is really cool. I can manage my app from there. And as you can see, I've got an app running, showable to the client with analytics. And it took me like, I don't know, 19 minutes to get it done. So I would highly recommend doing that if you start a mobile development. And there are a lot of other technologies which sound cool, like React Native and stuff like that. But I don't think they've reached that far in the level of mobile development. Those tools are really, really cool. Okay, thank you. This was a bit shorter than expected, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Yeah.
Did you run into any problems using Ionic IO?
I did not run with too many problems because I had Ionic Package sometimes went through maintenance, but it never took more than 30 minutes, maybe 1 hour. And they are very, very reactive. They have a Gitter channel, so you can chat with them, and within a few minutes they answer immediately and tell you what's wrong. So it's not like PhoneGap, which was what was used before. And the community is now pretty much dying, but they're very, very active. This is in alpha, so it's free. It's gonna get, they're gonna put out a pricing plan soon. I don't know how much it will be, but there will be a free tier to use this, and maybe your client will be willing to pay to get some more support and stuff like that. But I'm not worried about that.
Second question: how do you integrate your continuous integration within the Ionic IO flow?
Okay, so we just did that yesterday. Actually, we set up continuous deployment, and basically you can just, if you run your app on Travis, for instance, or Circle CI, you have the ability to just run the Ionic upload once the test pass, and it will just deploy. And for continuous development, you of course need to set up tests for your project. And this is not something that is bundled into the Ionic generator. but it is bundled in more complex generators, such as the one we use for BNP applications, which is called MacFlight. It bundles a whole lot of stuff, some of which I would not recommend, but it gets us ready with unit testing, functional testing, and you can just plug in continuous deployment afterwards.
So you said that when you update the binaries, you need to go through the App Store or the Play Store, and when you update just the app, HTML and CSS, you can go straight forward to the user's phone.
Yeah.
And then if you want to make changes to the binaries that will have an impact on your app, then you start coding with that impact.
Okay.
Let's say that you want the users to only use the device in portrait or landscape mode, and then you start developing for that. So you will have users that do not make the binary update or receive the code update. And how can you put up with that?
That's a very good question, and I don't have a really good answer to it. Basically, I would recommend it, as I said before, to try to bundle to group as much as possible the binary changes so that this situation does not happen, because basically you're stuck with it. If you make a binary change and you want to put out some features, you need to have those binary changes. And people who don't download the latest version are going to possibly run into trouble. So my second recommendation would be to try to, if you do that, to have some fallback for users who did not upload and who are not going to be able to use the binary changes. So indeed, it does bring some more complexity because you need to be careful about that. But there's no current way to. This is an improvement. This is an improvement which should be made, and we don't have an answer yet to that.
Does it work with Ionic 2 already?
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. I haven't checked it out. I haven't had a chance to check out Ionic 2, to be honest. But it's definitely on their milestone list, I believe. Yeah. I should check it out.
Are they open source?
Ionic IO is not open source because they're going to make a pricing plan, but the rest of the SDK is open source. But yeah, this is not an open source project, which is too bad. I would agree. But some of the tasks you saw me running on the terminal are part of the Ionic CLI, and those are open source. All the parts for uploading to the server and stuff is open source, but all the part that is running on the server is not open source. No more questions?